to Tom in Edinburgh. Tom, you've had a global experience in selling destinations. Consequently, you're uniquely placed to see the situation from various perspectives. Admittedly, the situation the world finds itself in today is not any one of us ever dreamed of would happen. What would you recommend, be your recommendations for Mediterranean destination like Malta? Should we go the mass tourism route again or be more selective in our marketing strategies?
Well, good morning, and thank you. I'm honoured to be invited to join you. Thank you very much. And can I also say, I think we sit here and admire how Malta's handled the COVID pandemic so far. It's not really for me to tell Malta what I think you should do. On the other hand, I'm happy to look at some possible opportunities. I think mass market is a very emotive term, and I would rather say every destination, and particularly island destinations, I think need a diverse range of tourism markets so that you have a protection against one market collapsing and another booming. So I think, and you do have quite a diverse range of business in Malta. Is there an opportunity with post-COVID to increase the proportion of higher spending visitors? I think the answer probably is yes. Will you get the same volume? Will any of us get the same volume back in the next couple of years? Probably not. Social distancing will be a real challenge, I think, for a lot of businesses, for a lot of destinations. So we will not, I think, be able to pack as many people in as we have in many countries in the past. Were you starting from scratch, or were you a different kind of island like Santorini or Mykonos? I might be saying, well, go for a really upmarket brand because you don't need as many visitors. But you have nearly, well, over a quarter of your GDP is dependent on tourism. So you have a massive number of family businesses spread over all the islands. So I think you do need that diversity, which ranges from across different market segments. And one point I'd like to make there is that when you talk about mass market or diversity or quality, quality is really important at every level. Mass market can still be quality. I think there is an issue around what we see in the Caribbean, all-inclusive resorts, for instance, which are about affordability. On the other hand, if people stay in the resort, they don't go out and spend in the family-owned restaurants and bars and businesses and take excursions. So you do need that diversity, I think, of people who are going to spend in different types of place. But I do think there's an opportunity to always, in a situation like this, to improve the quality so that you attract higher spending visitors. But bear in mind, you're an island, so you need the volume, you need the airlift. I once made a rather naive mistake when I was working in the Caribbean many years ago, and I said, well, shouldn't we be looking at boutique hotels? And my colleague said, get a life, he said, how can you attract the amount of airlift that you need to get planes flying from a few boutique hotels? Now, I know you've got from 5-star to B&Bs to Airbnb and everything else. You've got a lot more already, so you have it there. But I don't think Malta will ever be in the situation of what Costa Brava or the Costa del Sol were, be able to attract that kind of volume of beach tourism. It's not neither in terms of the beach offer nor the flight time do you have that opportunity, I don't think. So I think you do need, just to reiterate, that diversity of markets. And I would think it's an opportunity to push the quality up, or the proportion of higher spending visitors up, which you have done, I think, quite successfully over the years. And I'm a big fan of what MTA has done. I've known MTA and seen them operating in international markets for a lot of years, and I have a lot of respect for them.
Tom, you touched on the question of mass marketing and quality over quantity. Now, the argument about quality over quantity has been trashed out countless of times. Now, how do you achieve that happy medium where one satisfies the hoteliers, who just, as Claire was pointing out, having their beds filled and not overcrowding a destination? Do you think COVID-19 has sorted this one out for us, or?
Who knows? I think what we've seen, I'm not saying in Malta, but in certain places, you've seen one of the biggest problems of tourism before COVID was over-tourism. Suddenly overnight, we've gone to under-tourism. And so the challenge is not how do we manage the place as to how do we get people back. I would like to think that we have an opportunity to get the right kind of tourism back to many destinations now. We're not going to, as I said earlier, get the volume, partly because of the fear of flying or the fear of traveling amongst certain segments. Also, because people still want to social distance, as Joe's very, very clearly pointed out, the safety, the hygiene is a big issue. So I think it gives us the opportunity to go more for quality than quantity in the future. And as I said, to increase the proportion of higher spending visitors. It's a bugbear of mine, I have to say, having run a national tourism organization, having worked for many, and I see around the world, and forgive me, Terence and Carlo, but you see the media, government ministers and tourism boards love to talk about the number of people, the number of legs that have flown into the country. I understand that, but actually what we should be focusing on is not volume, but value. How much are these people spending? What are they bringing? Of course, as I say, we have to have diverse people spending different amounts, so they don't just spend in 5-star hotels and stay there all the time, but they do go out to restaurants and take excursions and visit attractions and so on. But I do think COVID's given us this opportunity to both reset the argument over quality versus quantity, because we'll be forced to. In terms of ecological impact, I think COVID's done what Greta Thunberg couldn't do. You know, we've actually reduced the numbers for a while. Willie Walsh, the head of IAG and British Airways, has said he doesn't expect to see volume, the numbers come back till about 2023. IATA is talking about 2024. So we have real challenges for the immediate future. And I think another aspect of quality is destination management. You know, we have an opportunity to say, what type of tourism do we want? That means, what do we offer? How do we protect and how do we project our destination? What do we build? What restrictions do we put in place in terms of high-rise buildings or zoning? What will we allow where, and what will we encourage where? I'm a huge fan of destination management, because I think so many destinations around the world have not done it well. They've just said more, and I was one of those guys when I worked for a tourist board. More, because that's what people wanted, that's what the industry wanted, the hotels, the minister. But those days have got to end. We've got to look for quality, we've got to look for higher spend. But importantly, I think one other change is we've got to listen to what the people on the ground want in the communities, in terms of what kind of tourism is sustainable and reasonable, that allows them to survive, rather than just piling more in and destroying their environment. I mean, you have many of us, Venice, Barcelona, Amsterdam are the poster children for over-tourism. But even in Malta, I think you have something like 6 visitors to every citizen. So those are ratios that I think need to be thought about. And of course, you've got seasonality that affects that. You need more in winter and less in summer, and so on. Huge number of issues, but I think it comes down to really managing the destination, focusing on value and targeting the type of visitor that you know will provide the type of tourism that your people want in your communities.
Point noted about value as opposed to numbers, but the question of social distancing, etc. Tom, I read your very interesting piece on tourism after COVID-19, Dodo or Phoenix. Now, in it, you write about the contradictions, travel and tourism, depending on proximity between people. In a post-COVID world, we require social distancing between fellow travelers and suppliers. De-densification, as you call it. Now, naturally, this will affect business models and overall pricing, which is something Joe just mentioned as well. Do you envisage that the price of travel will only be affordable by the better off in the future, in taking into account what Joe was just talking as well?
I think that's a really big question. I think there's an inevitability. Some of that will happen. The costs are going up, as Joe has talked about. The costs, just the volume of, just think of what airports and airlines are having to buy in terms of protective equipment and hand sanitizer, and the application of that, the longer time it takes, the less people that you can cram in, forgive me for using the phrase, but cram into a visitor attraction. Let's take the Sistine Chapel in Rome might now be a much more attractive experience because you have to social distance and you don't cram in with lots of other people, but you reduce the numbers. Restaurants, I don't know about in Malta, but here there are spaces between you're probably going to have half the number of people in a restaurant you used to have. That means a lot of restaurants are just not viable. So I think we're going to see, as Claire and Joe have said, I think we will see quite a number of businesses going out of business for this reason. However, I think we will see clever ones survive. How they will be clever, we don't exactly know, but a lot of people have revised their business models to do takeaway, more al fresco dining. Sadly, I think it's almost inevitable a lot of travel prices will increase, but I think tour operators and travel operators, I should say, will try really hard to keep the prices reasonable because they have to get a reasonable degree of volume, which is necessary. So it's a juggling act. I would hate to think that what I call the democratization of travel, where it has become much more accessible to many more people, will be reversed. But I think inevitably we'll see a lot of higher prices. I don't know if you're going to ask me any more questions, but I wanted to sort of bring at a positive angle to this, because we are going to face tough times. As Joe said, the winter is going to be tough. We have a lot of uncertainty. We may have more spikes. I'd like to call it spikes rather than a second wave, because I think we're seeing that in different places. Malta has done really well, but I think Malta has a real opportunity in three areas. I think you have an enormous appeal. You're sort of, the second time I went to Malta, I realized what a quintessential Mediterranean island you are, and never underestimate that island character. And you have the warmth, which a lot of those of us who live in the cooler climes of northern Europe are looking for, and sun. But what a lot of people don't realize is just how much heritage and the range of heritage and culture you have in Malta. I was surprised, I think, when I actually got to see Malta properly some years ago. Most people I know who've come back from Malta, or everyone I know has come back from Malta, and said, wow, didn't realize there's so much. And when we're talking about quality, as I think several people have said, it's quality at every level. You have Michelin star restaurants, but you also have, one of my most memorable memories of Malta is sitting having a fish dinner al fresco at Marshallslot. And don't forget, as I say, for those of us living again in Northern Europe, the idea of eating al fresco is a very appealing one in the warmth. The second element, I think, is safety. You have so far, you've done really well on that. Joe's mentioned the need to communicate or be seen to clean. That's a great line, isn't it? Be seen to clean. But many destinations like Singapore are actually incorporating it in their marketing. It's a very, very sensitive thing. I know you've come up with I think you're safe to visit or safe and sunny or sunny and safe campaign. It's very, very difficult line between saying we're safe and scaring people, and in subtle ways communicating how well you've done with managing COVID and how safe you are. So safety is going to be a real issue, and targeting the markets that are right for Malta, who will travel in the near future, who will behave responsibly, and who will spend money. But I do think Malta's got a fantastic appeal that's still it's not known as widely for particularly its heritage in many Northern European destinations. And in spite of the good work MTA has been doing, I think you've got so much to offer. And I would urge you to take confidence from those three things: the appeal, the safety, and the targeting the markets, the right markets.
Thank you. I think